I don't want anything to go down.
Let's begin this morning with Americans on edge as trillions of dollars of wealth.
The economy is spiraling. Markets are crashing. And what does Donald Trump say to struggling Americans? Don't be weak. Don't be stupid. As the financial fallout of his sweeping new tariffs unfolds, the former president isn't backing down. He's doubling down. But is this bold leadership or a full-blown economic disaster in the making? As of April 2nd, 2025, Donald Trump, now back in the spotlight and teasing another presidential run, has launched a full-scale economic offensive, slapping a universal 10% tariff on all imports, with even harsher rates against countries like China, Mexico, and the European Union. He's calling it Liberation Day, claiming that this move marks America's final break from what he brands decades of unfair, humiliating trade. In classic Trump style, he's painting this as a war, not just an economic one, but a battle for America's soul. And when the stock market responded with a violent crash, when economists began sounding alarm bells about inflation, layoffs, and even recession, Trump's response was pure defiance. Stop whining. Be strong. This is what real change looks like. The market didn't take it well. As of April 3rd, the Dow Jones plunged over 1,200 points, one of its steepest single-day drops in years. The S&P 500 followed suit, while tech stocks and international trade-dependent sectors took a nosedive. Financial analysts are now warning of a potential shock recession by midsummer. Yet Trump insists this is temporary turbulence. In a fiery speech on April 4th in Des Moines, Iowa, he told supporters, "They said the same thing when Reagan broke the unions. They said it when I took on China. This isn't weakness, it's medicine. And medicine doesn't always taste good." At the heart of his pitch is a simple promise. These tariffs will bring jobs back, force countries to play fair, and finally make the U.S. economy self-reliant again. No more cheap goods made by foreign labor. No more dependency on what he calls globalist garbage. But critics, from both the left and the right, aren't buying it. Moderate Republicans like Senator Mitt Romney have slammed the move, calling it reckless populism wrapped in patriotic branding. Democrats say the working class will suffer first, from rising grocery bills to layoffs in export-heavy industries like farming, autos, and tech. Even international allies are furious. The EU has threatened retaliatory tariffs, while China warned of a prolonged trade war with devastating consequences. The global economy, already shaky post-COVID, is now walking a tightrope. Trump's strategy is nothing short of economic brinkmanship. Supporters hail him as a long-overdue disruptor, someone finally willing to stop the bleeding of American manufacturing and confront foreign manipulation head-on. They argue that for too long, the U.S. has been the world's economic punching bag, and these tariffs, painful as they may be in the short term, are the price of reclaiming power. But the dangers are real. Tariffs are taxes, and those costs will hit American consumers. Experts predict a 9 to 15% increase in prices of everyday imported goods, everything from smartphones to sneakers to canned food. For working-class families already dealing with inflation, this could be the breaking point. Meanwhile, Wall Street fears this protectionist turn could spark a chain reaction, reduced corporate earnings, lower investor confidence, slowed hiring, and eventually mass layoffs. And while Trump dismisses Wall Street panic as fake fear, the reality is this. His bet is enormous. If the tariffs succeed, he becomes the architect of a new nationalist economy. If they fail, he might drag America and the world into an avoidable economic storm. So here we are, watching history unfold in real time. Is Trump's tariff offensive a bold step toward long-overdue economic independence? Or is it the trigger for a self-inflicted economic collapse? Is this the medicine America needs, or a poison pill disguised as patriotism?
Have offered 0 for 0 tariffs on cars and industrial goods.
Now, the European Union has offered to remove all tariffs on cars and industrial goods from the U.S., but President Trump now says it's not enough to make up for what he calls unfair trade.
A stunning offer, a swift rejection, and now global trade chaos looms. In a moment that could have reset the entire balance of transatlantic trade, the European Union extended a bold olive branch: remove all industrial tariffs, level the playing field, and end the economic standoff. But in a flash, President Donald Trump torched the deal. As of April 7, 2025, the U.S. has slammed the door shut on a potential trade breakthrough. signaling a deeper fracture between Washington and Brussels. Why did Trump walk away from what the EU called a good deal? And is the world now on the brink of a full-blown tariff war? Tensions between the US and European Union have been simmering for years, but they exploded into open conflict this month. On April 2, 2025, the Trump administration unveiled a new tariff package that sent shockwaves through global markets. A 10% global tariff across the board and a brutal 25% tariff on all foreign-made automobiles. The move hit Europe especially hard. For countries like Germany and France, whose economies rely heavily on auto exports, this was a direct hit to their industrial lifeblood. In an unexpected move, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen responded not with retaliation, but with cooperation. She offered to eliminate all industrial tariffs between the EU and US, hoping to de-escalate the trade war and set the stage for a new agreement. "We're ready for a good deal," she said on April 6th. But by the very next day, that offer was dead. First, Trump flat out rejected the deal. In a press conference from the Oval Office on April 7th, he dismissed the EU's proposal as not enough and accused Europe of decades of trade abuse. "The EU has been very tough over the years," Trump said. "It was formed to really do damage to the United States in trade." His administration insists that any deal must include massive reforms in agriculture, autos, and digital services, sectors the EU has historically protected. Second, this isn't just rhetoric. It's already having real-world consequences. Volkswagen has halted US imports of its Audi vehicles, holding thousands of cars in ports rather than pay the new tariffs. Other companies are considering similar moves. The result? Supply chain paralysis, price increases, and chaos for dealerships and consumers. Third, the EU isn't backing down either. While von der Leyen emphasized Europe's readiness to negotiate, she also issued a clear warning. The EU is prepared to retaliate. "We will defend our interests," she said. And with European elections looming in June, Brussels cannot afford to look weak on trade. This isn't just another trade dispute. It's a high-stakes power play that could reshape the global economy. Supporters of Trump's position argue that the EU's offer was superficial, a PR stunt that didn't address the real barriers U.S. businesses face in Europe. They say America's massive trade deficit, over $350 billion by some estimates, is proof that previous deals have failed. Only bold, aggressive tactics can fix it. But critics warn the cost may be too high. Tariffs function like taxes, and higher import costs could soon mean higher prices for cars, electronics, and industrial equipment across the U.S. They argue that walking away from the EU's zero-tariff offer could isolate America further, pushing allies toward China and triggering retaliation that could hammer U.S. exports. This conflict is also about ideology. Trump's vision of America first clashes with the EU's preference for multilateralism and regulatory standards. It's not just a trade fight, it's a battle over who sets the rules of the 21st century global economy. And now, with both sides locked in, the world could be witnessing the start of a second Cold War, this time fought with tariffs, not tanks. So here's the big question. Was the EU's offer a missed opportunity, or a Trojan horse? And will Trump's refusal to engage spark a broader economic meltdown, or finally bring long overdue leverage back to the American negotiating table? This trade standoff is only just beginning, and its outcome could shape everything from car prices to global alliances. What do you think? Is Trump playing hardball for the right reasons, or risking too much?
We're having direct talks with Iran, and that'll take place on Saturday, and it's at top level. I think if the talks aren't successful with Iran, I think Iran is going to be in great danger, and I hate to say it, great danger, because they can't have a nuclear weapon.
What if I told you that behind closed doors in Washington, two of the world's most controversial leaders just reshaped the future of the Middle East? A secretive meeting, escalating threats, and a plan for Gaza that critics call modern-day displacement. On April 7, 2025, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu landed in the U.S. for a surprise meeting with Donald Trump, and what came out of it could ignite global shockwaves. The timing of this meeting couldn't be more critical. As of early April 2025, Israel is in turmoil over a new wave of U.S. tariffs that slapped a 17% increase on key Israeli exports. The country's economy is wobbling, and Netanyahu is under massive pressure to restore balance. But this isn't just about trade. The stakes go far deeper. The Iranian nuclear issue is re-emerging as a full-blown crisis. With the U.S. hinting at direct talks with Tehran, Netanyahu is wary, and some in his cabinet see it as a betrayal. And meanwhile, Gaza is burning. With over 1,300 Palestinians reportedly killed in recent Israeli airstrikes and dozens of hostages still held by Hamas, international condemnation is mounting. Yet Trump has a radically different vision, a Gaza Riviera, which critics say sounds disturbingly like forced ethnic resettlement. First, the tariff war. According to White House officials, President Trump recently enacted a 17% tariff on Israeli products as part of a broader campaign to rebalance what he calls unfair foreign trade. During the meeting, Netanyahu promised to eliminate Israel's trade deficit with the U.S. very quickly. But Trump didn't budge. He reminded Netanyahu that Israel already receives nearly $4 billion in U.S. aid annually. It was a brutal reminder of who holds the leverage. Second, Iran. Trump made headlines with a shocking announcement. He's preparing to open direct negotiations with Tehran. Speaking on April 7th, he stated that while he hoped for peace, if Iran failed to cooperate, it would face great danger. Netanyahu publicly voiced cautious support. But privately, sources say he warned Trump that diplomacy with Iran has historically led to deception. Third, the Gaza proposal. In one of the most bizarre moments of the meeting, Trump floated a plan to redevelop Gaza into a Mediterranean Riviera once hostilities end. The idea? Use foreign investment to build luxury resorts and create a new future for the region. But human rights groups instantly slammed the idea. The Guardian quoted experts who called it a smokescreen for ethnic cleansing, alleging it would displace Palestinians from their land under the guise of development. To make matters even more suspicious, the planned joint press conference between Trump and Netanyahu was abruptly canceled, raising questions about what was really said behind the scenes. This meeting is not just a footnote in the news, it's a turning point in global politics. The U.S.-Israel economic relationship is under stress like never before. These new tariffs could push Israel to seek alternative trading partners, possibly even strengthening ties with China or India. That would mark a seismic shift in global alliances. On Iran, Trump's pivot toward diplomacy may look like pragmatism, but it could embolden Tehran if not handled with extreme caution. Netanyahu's skepticism isn't just paranoia. He's betting his country's survival on it. And Gaza? Trump's redevelopment plan may sound idealistic, but it's drenched in controversy. Without a stable ceasefire or international oversight, such a project risks becoming a symbol of colonial arrogance rather than peace. If Palestinians are forced to leave or sidelined in the planning process, we could see an even larger conflict erupt. The canceled press conference also speaks volumes. Was there a disagreement? Did Trump overstep? Or is Netanyahu hiding the true cost of the so-called deal? So here we are, one secret meeting, three massive crises, and the future of an entire region hanging in the balance. Are we witnessing the beginning of a breakthrough? Or is this the first chapter in a new era of chaos? What do you think about Trump's Gaza Riviera plan? Is it visionary or a dangerous delusion?
Last week, President Trump applied that 35% reciprocal tariff on China. China retaliated, applying its own 34% tariff on the United States. The United States will impose additional tariffs on China of 50% effective April 9th.
The trade war is back, and it's fiercer than ever. Donald Trump just dropped a political bombshell, calling China the biggest abuser of them all. And in a move that stunned global markets, he warned Beijing, retaliate again and face crippling new tariffs. As of April 7, 2025, Trump is going full throttle on one of the most explosive issues of his political playbook, U.S.-China trade. In a fiery interview and public statements, the president made it clear he believes China is manipulating global trade, hurting American workers, and ignoring his warnings. Now he's threatening even harsher tariffs to make Beijing pay the price. So, is this a bold stand for American industry, or a reckless gamble that could push the global economy over the edge? Let's break down what's really happening. This latest eruption started when China quietly slapped new tariffs, some as high as 34%, on American goods ranging from agricultural exports to advanced machinery. Beijing claims it's simply protecting national interests in response to earlier U.S. tariff hikes. But Trump didn't take it lightly. In a televised statement on April 7, 2025, Trump said bluntly, "I warned them not to retaliate. They did. Now we hit back, harder. He accused the Chinese government of abusing the international trade system for years, cheating on intellectual property, manipulating their currency, and flooding U.S. markets with subsidized goods. Trump's proposal? A sweeping 50% tariff on all Chinese imports unless they immediately reverse course. The first point of tension, China's retaliation defied direct U.S. warnings. According to Trump, Beijing's refusal to back down is proof they never intended to negotiate fairly. Chinese officials, however, insist that the U.S. started this economic aggression, and they're merely defending themselves. Second, the economic fallout is already being felt. Within hours of Trump's statement, the Dow Jones dropped nearly 1%, and analysts warned of further volatility ahead. American farmers and manufacturers, many of whom supported Trump in 2016 and 2020, now fear they could be collateral damage again if a new trade war escalates. Third, Trump's long-term strategy remains controversial. Supporters argue this hardline stance is overdue. They say past presidents caved to China for decades, allowing the U.S. industrial base to rot. But critics warn that tit-for-tat tariffs risk sparking inflation, alienating allies, and damaging U.S. credibility on the world stage. Here's where it gets dangerous. This isn't just about soybeans or semiconductors. It's a geopolitical chess match with trillion-dollar consequences. Trump's goal is to force China to concede ground on trade, intellectual property, and currency policy. But Beijing is playing the long game. In response to Trump's threats, China's Ministry of Commerce vowed to fight to the end, accusing Washington of economic blackmail and vowing further retaliation. Both economies are deeply intertwined. A full-blown trade war could rattle global supply chains, disrupt markets, and hammer consumer confidence, especially as inflation continues to loom large in 2025. At the same time, Trump's renewed attacks are reshaping the political landscape. With the 2024 election still fresh in memory, and rumors swirling about a possible Trump 2028 run, this aggressive stance could once again galvanize his base, particularly among Rust Belt voters who believe America was sold out to China. But is this smart diplomacy or economic brinkmanship? The stakes couldn't be higher. On one side, the president determined to punish what he calls decades of Chinese abuse. On the other, a rising superpower that refuses to be pushed around. Will Trump's tariff threats force China to back down, or will they ignite a trade war that could spiral out of control? What do you think? Is Trump protecting American jobs or risking global chaos? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more sharp takes and real-time political updates. We're just getting started.